Obo ma akola no fo ene akola woni mfie du mienu ntimi no
FDA ahwehwe saa edwadie nkratoe mu agya atom se eye
and don't think I decided true man capsules and so at their brand.
I can't think of what's a good deal to me, dear Michi.
At the account, and now you're bare man, I wouldn't have wow.
True man capsules. One mama ya bear ma bion.
True man ye marima drew and mofra woni imfie dun watchi intumi numbi. Sa dwadie nkrato we FDA for hwemu agya atom se je.
It's incredible! Bang on target!
Welcome back. Thank you very kindly for staying with us. My name again is Kwame Owusu. So this is your most authoritative morning show program on the continent. Good Morning Africa with me, Kwame Owusu. So let me remind you again that we're streaming from our studios here in Abelenkwe across 32 African countries. And so you can tell a friend to tell a friend that this morning is going to be very exciting. Now, again, let me remind you that we're streaming live on Facebook, which means that the whole world can get the opportunity to watch the show. The WhatsApp number is also very active, which is 026 084 6539. And so I want to encourage all of you to share with us what you're thinking this morning, and we will read it out. Let me go through the topics before I introduce my panelists for today's conversation. Election 2025 confirmed dead in 3 regions. The Insight newspaper reported this one on its front page. We will accept Formina MP back. NPP says that. Hang Parliament beckons daily guide. Nana Akufo-Addo, President-elect, wins second term by 51.59% of votes cast. Ghanaian Times newspaper. Now I presume that this is going to take a lot of our attention this morning. Now, let me quickly introduce our panelists to you, after which we will start our conversation. The Honorable, the outgoing Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, Honorable Inu Safoseni is here seated. Honorable, good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you very kindly for your time.
You're welcome.
Dr. Alhaji Abubakar Marzouk is also here seated. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir.
And you've been kind to Pan-African Television. Thank you very much. You are the process. Right. And Mr. Kwesi Pratt Jr. is also here seated. Good morning, sir. Thank you for your time. So we're starting the conversation from the front page of the Insight newspaper, which has on its election 2020 5 confirmed dead in 3 regions. Dr. Marzouk, let me start with you, sir.
Good morning to the cherished viewers of ours, and once again thanks for the opportunity. We thank Almighty Allah for giving us the opportunity to assemble here to continue service to nation, service to democracy, service to Africa, service to humanity. A special good morning to His Majesty Yanna Abubakar Muhammad II, His Majesty Myanglana, His Majesty Yona, and then special good morning to the people of Nantong. Yes, I want to tackle this story from the humanitarian point of view. First of all, you have 5 people confirmed there.
In 3 regions.
We all agree that democracy articulates the centrality of the people. And that is why the 1992 Constitution reposes sovereignty in the people. Normally, the phrase is that democracy is about the will of the people. So the phrase, the will of the people, is highly central to democracy. But then, what is next? What is more important to the will of the people is the life of the people. And therefore, the will of the people is even secondary to the life and the health of the people. And that is why in political discourse, I personally hate, and I'm using the word hate, phrases such as isolated incidents of violence, pockets of violence. I don't like them. I understand, yes, that in qualitative and quantitative analysis, the principle of percentage is accepted. But where human life is involved, our aspiration should be that no one should be hurt, let alone killed. And that is why it is important for all of us to protect the life of the people before we even talk about the will of the people. When we have incidents like that, our language must be correspondent to the reality on the ground. Yesterday, with all humility, I wasn't happy when the EC chairperson described the elections as very peaceful. I want to analyze the adverb very and the adjective peaceful. Where you have dead people, people are dead, others are injured, others are nursing injuries in hospital, at homes, right? So when you have such a situation, even if one person dies, I know it is impossible for us to have an election without any incident, but once we have cases of death, it will be unfair linguistically and morally to describe such an exercise as very peaceful. In a situation where, of course, there are other adverbs she could have used in a very refined manner, either relatively peaceful or comparatively peaceful, but very peaceful. Of course, very is an emphatic adverb. And in that context, it tells us that the election was out of violence. And if, of course, in a situation where we are talking about the 5 people, the death of every Ghanaian must be a source of concern to all Ghanaians. The loss of life should at all times be a source of mourning. It doesn't matter the status of the person who is dead. And therefore, I believe that going forward, we should try as much as possible to know how to choose our words very well as we try to serve nation. And then we should also try as much as possible to allow reasoning instead of emotions to prevail. Let me say that yes, people have voted, the electoral commission has pronounced, but whatever be the case, I think what we are witnessing today will contribute to the enhancement of democracy. Rejection of the verdict or acceptance of the verdict in any way will enhance the quality of democratic constitutional order in this country.
Can we get into the specifics? Odudu, for instance, you want to get into that? And let's look at what happened in Ododio constituency. After the incumbent member of parliament was declared, what happened thereafter? People storming his home, vandalizing his properties, going to his hotel, tear gas fired, etc. Let's look at that particular incident. I think we should look at it from that perspective.
Why don't we have a global omnibus assessment and then get into specifics later? I mean,
okay, all right.
You are the host, you decide.
Okay,
but let's have a general picture and then we can go. Oh, Master, what do you
yes.
Okay, so then, Honorable, let me come to you then.
Well, you see, let's say that election 2020 was a very important election and has still been a very important election. Is the ramifications of election 2020 are not done yet. Now, we had an incumbent who was bent at winning the elections. I mean, we knew that the incumbent and his party had armed certain people. We knew, we knew that they had infiltrated the security services. We knew. And so violence, we could not rule out violence. In fact, there were as many as there were so many hotspots that were identified by the National Security Task Force even before the elections. And so clearly we knew that these tensions would be high in the elections. We also knew that people would go out of their way to kill, to be able to procure victory. We knew. 61 incidents of violence was recorded in this country. 61. And that resulted in 5 people being killed. 5 people being killed. Now, who were those who perpetrated the violence? Who were those who, one could say a combination of the security establishment and the hoodlums who were armed by the MPP. They visited this mayhem on the people who were trying to exercise their franchise. The elections, you would understand when Jean Mensa says it was peaceful. She was ensconced. She was ensconced at the Electoral Commission. Nothing came to her. She had a whole battalion of military protecting her. The protection of Jean Mensa started way before the election day. Jean Mensa did not see anything, did not hear anything, and did not feel anything. And so, if she describes the elections as very peaceful, what else can you say? She should be living in the fool's paradise. Because even going out on the election day, people had real apprehensions. Sure. People had real apprehensions, and those some people had to be encouraged to go out and vote because of what they had heard before. And so for me, yes, you don't have to lose a life to win an election. No. But we knew that this will happen. In Kaswa, before the elections, gunshots were heard, fired by somebody who was closely associated with the sitting MP. What happened? Impunity. But nothing happened. And many such incidences were recorded across the country. That gave them the effort to do what they did. In Savulugu, after the counting of the Kadia votes and the declaration of the NDC MP as MP-elect, they returned to Savulugu. In alighting from their vehicle, someone shot into them and killed one person. Just shot into them and killed one person. And injured 2. So clearly, and when you talk about Techiman, people were disputing the results. Techiman had been called for the NDC, and they disputed the results. And people massed up because they thought they were going to steal the results. Then the military fired, or the security services fired gunshots. But we're told even before the elections, my brother, that they were not going to be they were not going to be armed military men and policemen at the polling stations. That's what we're told. We're told that.
Yes.
So how did it happen in Techiman? How did it happen that the security establishment were those who fired on the people? In fact, they had fired warning shots, and the people were running away. And they fired at them. They fight with impunity. They fired at them and killed two. I mean, Odio. Look at that in the video that we saw, that armed hoodlum who went to the polling station and started destroying voting materials. It was shot down. And clearly, I mean, there is more to these elections than meet the eye. And I've always said that probably there's a tragic mistake that we have made. and that mistake will continue to haunt us as a country. Because there's a government that closes its eyes to this level of impunity that is being visited on the people of this country by persons who have been armed by activists and officers of this Nana Akufo-Addo government. And so let's watch it. The police have said that they are going to investigate. We hope that they will do the investigation.
Right.
But this should not be allowed to go with unpunished.
Very well. Mr. Pratt.
The inside reports 5 dead in 3 regions.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is the end of the story. No. It cannot be the end of the story. Because those of us sitting here today cannot predict what is going to happen to all of those who were injured in the elections. There were several people who received death-threatening injuries, and they may be very soon could be added to the list of the dead. I saw videos of a gentleman who had been shot in the stomach, and as I sit here, I feel very, very sad for that gentleman and his family. The amount of blood which had been spilled as a result of this person getting shot was frightening, watching the video and so on. And I think we all wish that he would recover and join his family and be able to carry about his lawful, duties and activities as a citizen of our republic. Now, Honorable Minister Puseni talks about 60 incidents. Well, there are other assessments which are interesting. If you look at page 11 of the Ghanaian Times of today, CODIO, which is the Coalition of Domestic Election Observers, is reporting 235 incidents. Wow. So you have the Insight reporting 5 deaths in 3 regions. You have some political activists reporting 60 incidents, and you have CODIO reporting 235 incidents. Now, it is important to recognize that CODIO had observers in all 275 polling stations. So what they say must be very weighty, because they were there. They were in all the constituencies, 275 constituencies, they were there. And they record 235 incidents. Now, I'd like to read portions of the Ghanaian Times. So the Coalition of Domestic Observers had recorded 235 cases of various incidents from all the 4,400 polling stations where it deployed observers. Now, this is also very significant.
Yeah.
It is significant because there were about 40,000 polling stations.
Yeah.
Now, CODIO is reporting 235 incidents in only 4,400 polling stations. That's about 10% of the total of polling stations. So if you get 100% situation report, what will the figures be? And I'm very deeply worried. If you want to do extrapolation, which is not always accurate, you need to multiply 235. Need to multiply 235 by 10. It's not scientific, It's just
assumption.
It's not scientific at all. But then you are getting something like 2,400.
2,400.
Yeah, approximation. You are getting more than 2,000 incidents. Now, what are the incidents that Kodio is reporting? Very significant. Kodio says that the top 5 of these reported incidents are intimidation and harassment. This is Kodio, not me. Not CPP, not GCPP. It says the top 5 of the incidents recorded in only 4,400 polling stations, represent about 10% of the polling stations, were harassment and intimidation, violation of COVID-19 health and safety protocols, violence of various kinds, unauthorized persons at polling stations, and malfunctioning of biometric devices. Now, juxtapose this against the very flowery speech that Jane Mensah delivered yesterday. Jane Mensah yesterday was telling us that the elections were very peaceful. When you have 5 persons dead and more people could die, and you have incidents of violence and various kinds of harassment and so on, the Electoral Commission is telling us that it was very peaceful. So how credible are the findings of the Electoral Commission with regard to the conduct of the elections? Forget the figures. How credible are they? I am very deeply worried. Now, this is not the first time. In Owusu West Wuogon, when bullets had been fired, when people had been injured, when the whole country was seeing unprecedented violence and so on, Jane Mensah came and told us that the elections was very peaceful in Owusu West Wuogon. Contrary to what all of us saw gani on television and in videos and so on, Jane Mensah's verdict was that the elections were very peaceful. After that, government set up the Emil Short Commission, which confirmed unprecedented violence in Owusu West Wuogon. Our Electoral Commission still insisted that the elections were peaceful. That's how credible our Electoral Commission has become. Now, in the first statement signed by Albert Ahim, the national coordinator of CODEO, it said that a midday situation report is presented to the public on its findings on the setup, opening of polling stations, and few incidences received. 1,499 out of 1,502 parallel vote tabulation observers, that is 99.8%, located in all 275 constituencies in the 16 regions of the country on election day. So even this CODEO report is referring to incidents that occurred by midday. Voting opened at 7 a.m. and closed at 5. Sure. By midday, CODEO had recorded 235 incidents of the variety that they are telling us. I am scandalized, completely scandalized. And I think that given the failure of the Electoral Commission, which is responsible for all aspects of the elections, to give us a clear picture of the incidents that occurred at the polling stations and so on, it would become important for state institutions like that, such as the police service and so on, to give us a report of the observations. It's important for the political parties that participated in the elections. It is important for all the civil society organizations that observed the elections to give us what they saw, so that at the end of the day, we can have an accurate picture of what actually happened. Now, nobody should die in an election.
Oh.
Nobody. I mean, I get worried when we start making excuses and say, oh, only 5 people died. Should the 5 people have died?
No.
In any case, if any of the 5 people who died were your father, or your mother, or your sister, or your brother, or your cousin, or your friend, would you be sitting down saying that only 5 people died? 5 people died, yes, 5 people died. If they were your mother, or your father, or your cousin, would you be sitting down saying only 5 people died? 5 people died, so it's a call for celebration? What kind of country are we building? And the thing which annoys me the most is when I hear that, oh, killing people in elections is normal, it happens in every country. That's false, it is not true. I have been an international election observer in some elections in Latin America and so on. I was in Venezuela as an election observer. Indeed, I was supposed to go to Venezuela for the December 6th elections as an international observer. The only reason why I didn't go was that there were elections in my own country. It would have been strange if I had left the elections in my own country and gone to Caracas to go and become an observer there. I've been an observer in 2 elections in Caracas. Nobody died. There have been elections around the world where nobody died. I've seen elections in Cuba. You would not find one armed person at any polling station. Not one armed person. Not a single soldier. Not a single police officer. In fact, school children, primary school children are those who provide guidance in their uniforms, provide guidance at the elections in Cuba. So this whole thing where only 5 people died and so on, it's so annoying, so heartbreaking, and it gets worse when the chairperson of the Electoral Commission can actually open her mouth and say that the elections were peaceful, when you have reported cases 235, when we have 5 people dead and many others injured. I'm disgusted by this complete lack of feeling. I'm disgusted by it. You understand? And she presents a report of the election. What she did yesterday was to present a report of the election. But she even went into how it was financed, what machines they bought, and so on. She was not just declaring results. Okay? And she's able to present what to her and her commission is a comprehensive report of the elections without mentioning violence, without showing sympathy to the victims of violence, and without expressing her condolence to bereaved families and so on. I'm disgusted by this development. Even if the results that she declared yesterday were valid, credible, and so on, even if they were, this omission is a serious omission. Because we're beginning to accept violence as the norm. We are beginning to accept the death of innocent people as the norm. This devalues our democratic experiment. This places a huge dent on the democratic experiment. And I'm worried, I'm ashamed, I'm downhearted, and I could say more. What is this?
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Pratt. You're still watching the news paper review segment on Good Morning Africa with me, Kwame Owusu. So Let me remind you again that the WhatsApp number is active, 0260846539. Now, you can share with us what you are thinking this morning, 3 days actually after the election. So let's go to the next topic, which obviously has got to do with the elections. We will accept Formula MP back, NPP. Daybreak Newspaper says that. Honorable, I think it's fair to start with you on this subject matter.
Well, I don't think that is in the news. I don't think that we should be discussing. We should be discussing the
meat,
the impunity of the MP, the Electoral Commission, because they sacked from the. They sacked him. They said that because he refused to step down, they sacked him. The former MP has not applied to join them, but they said they will accept him back. I don't know what that means. I don't simply know what that means, because you sacked somebody. You said he was no longer part of you. You even declared him as persona non grata in Parliament. And when the Speaker read the verdict, and we wanted to raise issues of constitutionality, he said no, he was not just taking a decision, he was informing the House of a decision.
How?
Yes, and so you sacked him. You sacked the former MP. You said since he had not contested, he had not stepped down for the MPP candidate, he was no longer granted your party. He was no longer a member of your party. He persisted. Nana Akufo-Addo went there and said, yes, I spoke to him. And he said he would step down. So vote against him. The people decided to ignore what Nana Akufo-Addo said and voted for their MP. They want that MP. And they have voted for him. The MP has not said he's coming back to you. And you are already accepting him. How can there be? You see, you must give, or there must be offer
before acceptance.
The MP elect must offer to come back to the MPP before there can be acceptance. But there's no, I've not heard the MP say that, well, I'm coming back to the MPP. He cannot even make that declaration. Having been elected as an independent candidate, he can